So just let me know when to start, and I'll just
All
So
right. Give people maybe like one more minute to show up, and then we will get started here.
thanks for your patience, everybody.
All right.
Oh, Mr. Wells.
Ah, there he
Mr.
is.
Wells. Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Mr. Wells. All right.
Hello, hello.
Hi, David.
Hello. Hello. Okay.
All right. So I think we'll just get started now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Paul Hanson's masterclass on the Jazz Improv for the bassoon. We're so happy that you guys could all join us today. We have the wonderful Paul Hanson here, of course. If you guys don't know or haven't heard his crazy stuff, you should go look him up. He's phenomenal. Can do absolutely amazing things with the bassoon. The way that today's kind of going to work is that Paul's going to do some basic talking about some jazz modality and individual topics on the jazz bassoon for about 20 minutes. And then we're going to go into working with our three participants, Ryan Howe, Matt Volker, and Landon Howell. After that, there'll be a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, go ahead and feel free to toss them in the chat. And then afterwards, in about an hour and a half from now, we'll do a little bit of a Q&A. So I will hand it over to Paul. And Paul, it's all yours.
All right. Hey, guys. It's so great to see everybody out there. My story is really kind of interesting. I grew up in a musical family and played guitar first. Then I went into band instruments, playing clarinet, then saxophone, and then I went to chamber music camp, and I just got in love with chamber music. It just hit me over the head. We had a concert every day in this particular camp, or I guess we'll call it a camp or some retreat or something. And I decided I wanted to play bassoon, and then I got into playing bassoon and classical music. I was decent, and then I found out that you weren't really, there was no improvisers on the instrument. I always thought you would, but then I was told at some point, not in any big mean way or something like that, but no, that's not what you really do. You kind of have to stick to certain things, which is fine. It's great. But I was coming from improvisation anyway as a jazz saxophone player, learning my way through. I paved my way through college by playing saxophone 5 nights a week in R&B and jazz and blues bands. So I gigged at the same time as learning the curriculum, and I do have a bachelor's degree in bassoon performance. I've been a bassoon professor at Ithaca College of Music as an assistant professor. So I know enough, and I have classical students. One of my students just got into, I believe he's going to go to Northwestern or Manus or UCLA or whatever. So I know the fundamentals. I always felt I needed to learn the fundamentals to be a good bassoon player. And lo and behold, now I'm finding out that there's always been somewhat of an improvisational aspect to our instrument, much more than I did at the time. So getting to where I'm starting from is that anybody interested in jazz or improvising double reed, what brings you to it? Because obviously there are maybe quicker routes to go to the tradition, right, than doing on an instrument that doesn't have as much of a tradition. So, there's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to, but we're not really interested in that. We're interested in what you would like to do, why. And so why I do it, and this is just for me, and there may be many reasons for you guys, is that I'm an American musician, and music, one of the truest art form of our country, the really only true art form you could say, within reason, is jazz, blues and jazz, through the African American experience, melding with European traditions and world music traditions. So there's that. And improvisation's always been a big part, whether it be a holler, the field holler, like someone says a line and someone says it back to you, and you make a slight adjustment to it. That's it. And also another reason bassoon is a beautiful, beautiful instrument, right? We have this gorgeous instrument, lots of range. You're talking about low range down here, just wonderful downstairs, down there, and you have, fantastic range of high. You know, you have all kinds of things that are possible in this instrument. You know, all the beautiful obligato stuff you can do. We can kind of imitate the bass players, guitar players, horn players. We can do a lot of different things with the instrument. But obviously, there's technical demands. So, and a tradition. There's always said, you know, in order to play something that someone's heard many times before, like a Rite of Spring or the Marriage of Figure or something, you got to nail it in. You got to be, you know, performing just kind of like this way to get to this point, which is fantastic for that tradition. Outside of that tradition, there's a whole freedom out there to learning how to play by ear, to learning how to be able to hear something. Oh, I can play that right here. I know what it is. You connect your hearing to the tonality instrument. You know something about modes and scales and things like that. And I think now in classical music, there's maybe a little bit more attention paid to that, but usually it's learn your excerpts, get out there and get experience and follow the conductor and listen and play with each other, play the blend, and all those things are great. But you also want to learn something about the actual music you're playing in terms of a compositional sense, like the chords, the tonalities, and certain things like this. So, and also the jazz tradition, which have all that stuff in there. So there's different ways to think about improvising. Each of us have different qualities that we either enhance or take away from bassoon qualities. One school of improvising is the jazz and blues tradition with a rhythm section, with a amplified musicians, or string bass, electric guitar, acoustic guitar, piano, and so that's cool. And there's another one that's more like the contemporary, new music oriented, new music avant-garde, kind of the blending between new music of contemporary composition to non-jazz improvisation, where it's about sounds and textures and rhythms in a kind of abstract space. There's that also. There's also groups like Paul McCandless, the great oboist with Oregon, Ralph Towner, Keith Jarrett, a number of different people, Steve Reich, influence, all that stuff. So, in order to get started, I'm kind of split this up to the fundamentals of playing bassoon in this kind of jazz idiom, from what I feel is a great place to start. And so we were talking a little bit earlier with Matt about Carnatic music, Indian Carnatic music, and first of all, getting on your instrument and understanding, what scales are what and how to play within a scale and how to make music out of that by exploring that scale. It's no secret that a lot of great music has one modality for a while, and you really get to explore the modality, and you can make your own melodies. So that's why I start with certain things. And so we could also talk about things like rhythm, groove, groove-based music. Styles are often very approachable. And I started playing a lot of bassoon, especially electric bassoon. Played a lot of funk, a lot of rock. One chord, not I wouldn't say jazz, but there's chord changes. But you really got to feel the groove. You're not going to be playing giant steps in a funk groove all the time. You're going to be playing something where you have one kind of funky basis. For example, I can send you some examples later. I'll probably put this up later, but I have a few. If you go back to way back in time, I have something like this link right here. Copy this here, copy. And this is a very simple, old school. I'm putting it in the chat here, and then I'll play it. And here we go. So this is and I'm going to try to share this here.
One night farmer Brown was taking a hand. He locked up the barnyard with the greatest of care. Out in the hen house up the stood. When he hollered, "Who's that?" This is what he heard. There ain't nobody here but us chickens. There ain't nobody here at all. So quiet yourself.
So, this is blues oriented music, very American, very swing oriented. The feel is very important. The feel is, I'm going to stop. Did I share that already? I missed that. Did I miss that share? Oh boy.
Stop the bus. There ain't nobody here but us. We chickens trying to sleep, and you bust in and hobble, 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 hobble with your chin. There ain't nobody here but us chickens.
So it's very, I'll stop the share, go back to myself, I think I would try to share it earlier, but I didn't press the button. So what's that all about, and how does it relate to my instrument? Not, only in the sense of the feel of the music and shuffle and the groove, the undeniable kind of feel, which you want to be part of, right? So it's a rhythm. You want to be part of that. that's the first thing, is to, you know, get yourself aligned with some way in your instrument to that, even if it's one note or something, you know, that kind of a thing. Now, sticking on that kind of one chord type of thing, this is very different. Now, here's a new thing here. Going to get to it. Copy and paste, and going to go back into this. This is our group Oregon, and this, although this tune does change keys a little bit, it's not really there. I got to get back to sharing the screen. So we got this. Okay. All right. There's an upright instrument. So I'm going to stop that now. So that is like a one chord little moment here, very different than Louis Jordan, but in a different rhythm field, but a rhythm field nonetheless, and a celebration of what's in that scale. It's a major scale. It's a Mixolydian scale. So I think is what, as I say. So it's a G, you know, G. I know that you're dealing with scales all the time. So that's a C major scale starting in the fifth. So Mixolydian, G Mixolydian dominant scale. He's just celebrating that scale. And almost anybody who knows about a major scale can celebrate that scale in different ways. So with that being said, where I'm going to go next is, let me get this thing out of the way, is to the iReal Pro app. And we're going to talk about certain things. So first of all, you know, I'm going to get further into this, but the very first place to start would be with a song, you know, something that you can get in my book, you know, Jazz Training for Bassoonists, which is the very beginning, which is like one mode rhythmic improvisation where you really get to hear yourself over one mode. And there's this tune here that I'm going to have Ryan play. It's called Little Sunflower. Now we're going to get into the section where I'm going to have people play. And through this, I'm going to go to some higher levels in terms of starting with a major scale, and then we'll talk about ways to organize that scale, and we'll talk about introducing other chords and different things like that. But hopefully, I won't do it too fast. I'm just I see it all connect. It's really remarkable, and you should be able to at some point too. And I'll try to keep my talking down a little bit. So Ryan, if you have the Little Sunflower up on your iReal Pro, could you play along with that a little bit? Just play the melody. And then after playing, you can stop, and then you take maybe a little soloing. And if you only want to go over the first section, the D minor, that's fine. Then I'll do a little talking about it. Somebody wants to get admitted to the room there. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, everybody. Thanks.
Hey.
Man. Okay. Sorry. Let me get that up here. Little Sunflower.
Yeah. I can't. I have it here, but it won't work for you because you play. Share it. you're killing it. Great. Okay, so I'm going to stop my share. What I'm sharing is the iReal Pro app, which is entry level way to learn your stuff. So I have this up here. What he was playing over this, that, and that. Within this app, you could also cycle. If I just wanted to cycle one section like this, I could do it by this. And so I'm just cycling 4 bars here in a second. And it's not going to go on, right? So Ryan was very nice. He played some things we've been talking about, which organizing the major scale. Obviously, okay, you have to know something about music theory for all styles of music. It is really evident when you are in jazz. You just got to have a really innate knowledge of, okay, what mode am I playing here? You don't have to name them by name. You just have to know where you're supposed to go, what sounds right. So what he's working with here, when you see a lot of chords in jazz, you see that D-7, which is a D minor 7, which is the second mode of the C major scale. So C major, by starting here, that's a Dorian mode. So within that Dorian mode, what he was also doing, which is something I will talk about, is not only was experimenting and going unique little places and kind of coloring different parts of the nice, chord there, he was organizing in different ways, because we've been talking about certain things like minor pentatonic scales. So, if I'm just playing a scale like this, that's an 8-note scale, right? Or 7-note scale with the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, But if you're talking about a 5-note scale, pentatonic, you are talking about less scales. And in most musics of the world, there's, all kinds of, I would say, indigenous music from Africa, Asia, all over the world. There's minor pentatonics or pentatonics of some sort are there. An organization that gets through the octave faster and highlights more kind of harmonic chunks at a time. And it's a different way to organize a note. So I heard Brian working on that, which is really nice. So if I'm doing this over here, it's good to know. These are kind of things where you're going to start thinking about different ways to color the note. And what's nice about what Ryan is doing, he's very free about it. You picked a very fast tempo. You could have gone a little bossa nova to a slightly slower tempo. Gives you a better chance to double up your time, because I know that he wanted to go did it, do the double time thing, which is tough at whatever tempo you're at. So, with this app, obviously you can change the tempo, like I can change it right here up to 132. And if there's any questions, if everybody can be seeing that, if there's a problem, if you do not see the iReal Pro app, you should, but let me know, or let Ali, and she'll interrupt. So here, I'm going to talk about just this one little chord here. I'm just going to cycle this thing. And so what Ryan is coloring different certain notes. Like, what's really nice to know is, like, if you are playing this, you organize a particular scale. Once you get in love with the scale, there's so many nice places where notes you can end on. Like, you might have heard Paul McCandless's last little thing it played for you. I think he got stuck on the 6th, which is a B. And what makes it interesting is that you can pick a number of different things that kind of personally some different type of information kind of gets conveyed. It's not necessarily little information like 5 + 3 = 8 or something like that, but it's just a different place to land, a kind of an interesting reflective point in terms of sound and words and everything like that. So when I go back to minor pentatonic scales, so we're talking about things like this. This is like a D minor pentatonic. That means so that's the scale you'd find often in this, and you can get stuck on that and have fun with it. You don't have to play it fast or anything like that, but it's interesting that this tune is great for bassoon players because it really fits our technical possibilities. And I also tell students, like, go up, this is a little bit later in life, but you can go onto an E flat and make it an E flat and practice that. But it's difficult, right? But that's how, this is what jazz musicians do. They practice things in all keys at some point. But for entry level, this is great. Not only can you play one minor pentatonic over what's a major scale, but starting on the 2nd degree, you have two other ones. So each major scale, by law, it has 3 minor pentatonics. So I'm playing D. Another way to hear it's E and A. And so those are ways you can, have this sound. So you can kind of color those things different. It's like finding different information that's kind of like it colors it in different ways. So if I'm on like an A minor pentatonic, I'm doing a lot of now E is like this. So that's really cool. Again, we're over one key, and you can really have a great time. There's one thing for everybody to take away with this. Try this just one little area to improvise it and enjoy hitting in notes that are they're in the scale, but how does it sound like next to another note? You have that curiosity. And what I also liked about Ryan's playing is motivic stuff. I heard things like this. Oh, it went on to the next key. Okay, so these are some of the things, and I don't want to get too far ahead of people's experience, but Ryan, that was really good. If you got to take off anytime, I really thank you for being here. That was awesome. So things to notice is that we're talking about one chord things and organization within just one chord for now. We're not talking about progressions, which come much later. But this, again, is like the home territory for double reed people to improvise this. Really get good with one, coloring the mode in a beautiful way. Even if it's very melodic solo. Say if I'm just starting on D and I don't really go anywhere. You also notice that there's rhythm there. So what Ryan also did well is he played offbeats. He didn't just play do ba dee da da. He called it with there's options here. You have 16th notes, you have 8th notes, you have different ways to be on the offbeat. For example, that kind of stuff. So I think that's a lot of technical information to have to hear from me, but that is fine with me. I can yap it all day, but I just don't want to overwhelm people with all this information. But it's basically a scale and ways to organize it. So that's before you get into chromatic kind of stuff. That's great. So now you'll notice if you're looking at the iReal Pro app, we have another chord here or two, right? So what's really interesting is people say, oh, I have to shift everything to E flat. Well, yes, in some ways you do. The E flat wasn't here, right? But so this is a B flat major scale, because often when you see this right here, it also means in this particular situation that it's a major 7th chord with a raised 4th or sharp 11. So it really technically is E flat major 7 sharp 11, because it just doesn't sound good to go to E flat there. If I went to A flat there, that's how it goes. No, this is not where we're at, because we're too much in here. We're over here, so if we do this. So I'm trying to keep with one thing. So really interesting fact is that you're talking about a scale. If I say something like a D minor pentatonic, 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, 1, right? That will also work over this if you know your harmony, because that becomes a 7, 2, 3, 4, 6, 1 or something. So that's a 1, 2. So that's 7, 2, 3, sharp 4, 6. Yeah, 6 there. The same notes work over that chord. So if I play D minor pentatonic here, it's also working here. But not here. Well, I had to change there. I can't play D minor here because it's a major 7 chord. You'll come to know this. But again, the biggest thing, again, to start with is something like this, where we really come in to do this. So I know if there's any other students around here that I have, let me stop to share for a second. Hello, everybody. Everybody still here? Great, great, great. All right, right. So Landy, would you like to play a little bit on this tune yourself?
Yeah, sure.
And why don't you do this? Go on to the, don't worry so much about playing the head again. Just play a solo and make sure it's not too fast. Because I mean, everything was fantastic about what Ryan's playing, but it limits you to how fast you play the tune. And physically speaking, although you guys are getting there, just 130 or something like that would be probably fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
All right. Let me get.
And then I'll continue to yap. I have some more yapping to come. Let me know if guys. Go ahead. Sorry.
It was a little too slow. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. That was a little too loud.
One of the two.
All right. Here we go.
Awesome. So highlight was another thing that Landon did really well. When he went to this D major 7 chord, I'm going to share this again. So when I go back to the iReal Pro here, share the screen, Here we go. There we are. So we went here. He didn't play any Ds at all. Often people, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily always classical musicians, but people feel the need to go to the 1 all the time, the 1 being the D. One thing you wouldn't want to do, since the bass player is already playing the D, orchestration-wise, go to something else that tells you it's a major chord. You're celebrating the harmony. You're celebrating this beautiful harmony. We love music. We love, Stravinsky, Tchaikovsky, Bach, Ellington, everything. We love harmony. So we're celebrating the harmony of the tune and the melody sometimes and the rhythm. So here you don't celebrate a D major 7 chord by going to the root. You don't need to. It's like we made it to 1. No, you made it to. So you did a really nice job of going to the money notes, which are the 3rds and the 7ths. And those things really point out what you have. And so what he's doing here also. So when we talk about major 7 chords, you can go to, this is this little secret, not really a secret or something, but if you see a major 7 chord, you go to the major 3rd of it and you play a minor pentatonic on it. So if I was over here on this G, I just celebrate this for a second. So I'm going to go to E flat, I'm going to play a G minor pentatonic, which is this. And you're just playing all the intervallic stuff you can think of within reason. When I say intervallic stuff, so. So that's I'm celebrating the tonality of the chord. And in some instances, like previous instances, I could also do it starting on the major 7th. Minor pentatonic scale, starting on the major 7th and the minor and the major 7th and the major 3rd of the chord. So on D, it sounds like this. On G. And then over in D, same situation. I'm going to go here, celebrate this chord by playing F sharp minor pentatonic. You know, like that, you know? So. Or, I guess, yeah. C sharp. Yeah, so that, you know, you just have all those things at your disposal. So that's this tune. So this is one of many tunes. You know, this is what I start my book on. And the video everybody takes away with fun, playing with the one mode and slowly shifting it. It's a lot easier to start with this than, you know, put yourself in a situation where you're going play all these crazy tunes, crazy changes. You want to celebrate the harmony. That's why you can really captivate a person with one mode, you know. So there's that. I'm going to go to some other points here, and further on we go. So I made you, there's other things I have here. I'm going to go to another tune where we start to do certain kind of things. We're talking about another way. Okay, this is another thing. Organizing the scale, right? So we're talking about, and this particular tune, we can use this as our mother tune to really get everything. And I'm going to share again the screen so everybody sees what I'm talking about here, which is iReal Pro for now. And so we have this. So I've so far talked about just the scale, but starting on D, and really you can celebrate on starting at anywhere as long as it's the correct notes. Whatever that means. So another way to organize it, and we talk about playing arpeggios in classical music, you know, like that kind of stuff. So often in jazz music oriented improvisation, you're doing more like this kind of thing, where you're breaking up the scale not in an arpeggio, but in consecutive thirds. So like this, diatonically. Whatever tune that is, but that's like a you know, 50s style pop tune of some sort. But all that, if you learned this in an earlier book that I wrote, consecutive thirds really divide up the chord in certain ways that leads you to, you know, it's not a step, it's not a second, it's not a minor or major second, it's a third, major or minor. So it breaks up the harmony in a different way. So if I just do this, it's not so much as three modes anymore of a minor pentatonic, but this. So when you have all these different things, I always say to people, improvising is like islands. So when you first start out, you're on this little island with one palm tree, and your instrument is, where the heck do I go? But then you learn different disciplines, like, you know, maybe learning minor pentatonics is one island over there. At some point, you have all these different ways to go, where the water distance between you and the other island is not much. You just have to wait a little bit, you get to the other island. So all the islands are out there, becomes this, you know, great big piece of land, because you know way to connect all these different techniques in your head. I know, okay, my modes of my scale, I can play around with this scale. I can play minor pentatonics and have fun with that. I can have fun with consecutive thirds. I can have fun with that. And then I can do offbeats and rhythms. I don't have to play everything on the downbeat. So all these different ways to take the scale and make melodies. Now, obviously, we have to talk about, if you could hear something play to you, and we don't really have the chance to do this, but if I was in a live masterclass, I would actually play to each one of you guys and have you guys play back a phrase to me, because we don't often on bassoon listen by, play me this, I played this phrase, you played right back to me. But it really does help to be able to connect with this crazy instruments, technical stuff, with your brain, your fingers, and your head. Just be able to hear it once at one time. So there's also that element. So not only the musical aspects of all these different ways you can technically divide a scale into, I can play a scale, I can play consecutive thirds, I can play minor pentatonics, I can play different rhythms. You can also listen to what someone played to me and try to copy it, that kind of stuff. All those different things will make you a good improviser. So this is the kind of stuff that I start with when I'm talking about, ways to be creative, ways to think of things, ways to get around. We're going to now move on a little bit. So I'm going to, I'll talk a little more about my book. So we talked about that. Now, if I go into slightly other tunes, like there's another tune that Ryan may have taken off. He said he was stop the share here. So you're still here. So Ryan, do you have any chance to play a little bit of Blue Bossa?
Okay. I guess so. And then I gotta take off.
Oh my God!
I have my appointment.
Just play a little bit on it. Okay, that'd be great. So I'm going to go over here. Is back to my.
Sorry.
Okay, that's all fine. That's okay. So Boss Blue is a version of a tune called Kenny Dormer's Blue Bossa. What I'll do is I'll play the head for everybody right now, and then you'll play a little bit over it. So this is, I'm going to share this with you guys. What's good about sharing this is not so much that you see it's there, it's see that what I'm always talking about in terms of chord structure and stuff like this. And this is kind of stuff that maybe freaks people out a little bit, but it's the math behind the music, I suppose. So here's Blue Bossa. I'll just play the music, and this is going to be different than the head I wrote in my book. I wrote my own melody, but this is the actual Kenny Dorham melody. So this is a very commonly played jazz standard. So we're not talking about one chord for very too long. We have a chord changes, all right? We have certain things in here. So here we go. So you want to play a little something there, Ryan, on it. You can do enter a tempo you want to, but merely just you give it a shot. I know you've been playing well on this tune, so I'll get the share out of the way so everyone sees it. I hope this doesn't affect anybody. Okay, there you go.
All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It doesn't have to be that. That happened to be a little on the high end of the tempo. You go to 120 or something like that. I think I was at 140.
Okay.
Really, it's not the most important thing. Yeah, you know what? It's fantastic. All this is great. So I'm coming from a perspective. If anybody needs to ask a question like right now, am I going too fast? Is there something I don't know if I'm going through a lot of technical stuff here that comes from what I would think how you would start, calling it a certain way. So any comments and questions right now before I continue? I'm stopping a little early just for questions because I want to know if there's something you just went right over this and I didn't even hear any more about it. I need to hear more about that kind of stuff. I need to know what it sounds like to other people. I know what it sounds like in my head, but I don't know what other, how it goes for you guys. So let me know if anybody has some questions.
Thanks, Ryan, for sticking around. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
Aloha. Sorry, I have to go.
That's all good, man.
Catch you later, man. All right. So does anyone have any questions for Paul right now before we kind of move on to the next section? Feel free to either unmute yourself and talk, or you can drop them in the chat. Derek?
Yes.
When you were talking about kind of that soloing on Little Sunflower with consecutive thirds, and you brought in how it wasn't a step, is that kind of just connecting like the leaps together, or is there kind of something a bit more nuanced to it?
It's basically back on that tune. what I'm doing, I'm inverting lines back and forth. So it's just a flow of, instead of going, which is great technique. It's fantastic new skills. But it's also, if you want to get to another note, kind of highlight a melody. Often highlighting a chord and working within a chord, it's obviously eighth notes say. So I'm playing a lot of consecutive things like, let me go back to that tune, so I'll explain a little more of what I'm talking about. Recently played tunes, Little Sunflower. So when I'm on this chord here, I'm going to share this and talk about it. What you're asking about is leaps, correct? Something about leaping around, or?
At least that's how I kind of interpreted what you meant by thirds. If
Yeah, well,
it was different than that.
There's. So it's an active activity of going using thirds to. It's kind of a block, like you're kind of outlining little chords here and there within the scale. So, you hear, if you don't do it in a scale, you hear it in just different way to organize the scale. Exactly. So, for example, say if I'm here, I'm just going to play just like a C major chord over this little section right here. So I'm on the first part of Little Sunflower. I'm not sharing it. It's an element to something I'm doing, and it's just, if you learn your scales in different ways to organize them, then when you go to improvise, it's not like let's see what this sounds like. I can try this, and it spurs improvisation. It spurs just the idea of way of different ways that you can build something. It's like what tools that you can use to build some kind of epic, solo or just a little statement or something like that. Obviously, you go with your ear, you listen to things, you try to emulate what you hear. But there's just ways to, instead of, here's the scale, go to it. Scale, minor pentatonics, and their inversions. So when you're talking about, there's one inversion. That's another way it's organized. And, these are, same thing with this. It's building tension. But it's in a different way where you're building it on this block. Does that anyway answer your question a little bit, or still is it more confusing?
Yeah, no, that cleared up a lot of things. Thank you.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. I now do not want to make things more confusing. The things are already confusing in this world already. All right. So, any other questions? I'll go on a little bit. Nope. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go on a little bit. So we're going to go back to the tune not Little Sunflower, but Blue Boss or Boss Blue. So here we go. Go back here. I'm going to share this. Someone's trying to get on something like that. I guess they're in or something. I can't tell. Blue Bossa. No, Bossa. Not. Here we go. So going back to this tune. This is a very common tune. I'll play a little slower, but and I will also share the screen. And then we'll talk about starting a few things beyond all this, some practicalities. We're going past the music. So I think that should come next. So the different levels are different things. So now we're talking about not just one mode for a while, but I have to get out into some of these places. So you're never, there's many ways to approach learning something like this, but you're kind of listening for a tonality and how it shifts. How a melody kind of is a horizontal concept, right? It relates to things that are vertical, like harmony, but it's also how you sing through that harmony that really matters. So if I was really like nerdy anal retentive kind of stuff, I would just, you can do something like this, which doesn't make any musical sense. So this is me just outlining the chords without any kind of thought of. That sounds okay. I'm outlining every single chord. However, we have a bass player and a keyboard player already. So what I want to do is, and it was a very nice job Ryan did of playing a solo. He was close to a few things. He missed a couple things, but I know he can play them good. He'd be surprised. I was kind of surprised him with it, but it's good. Many of the stuff we've been working on, I hear him playing, and it's really cool. So you're thinking about how to link up this tonality and where does this tonality go? How does it change? When you're playing chord changes, you're playing the change from one chord to the other. That doesn't mean you play the entire chord, but you play what changes. What changes here? So we have this. We have a C minor. You know, this is Aeolian minor, kind of. It's an E flat major scale, C Aeolian minor scale to the whole first, 8 bars. And you're singing this. So I can basically stay in that mode as long as I don't clash. But there I have to change. I have to change the score because there's no C in the score. It gives it all away. C7 flat 9 is a very tense thing that has to resolve somewhere, right? It's got a lot of harmonic tension. Oh my gosh, that's a big chord in jazz. When we talk about this particular one, and we'll get in, you don't have to memorize this, you don't have to know this, it's just things we talk about, is what scale would you play there? So it says G, it says 7, and a flat 9. So that's, so usually the scale associated with this is not important to remember, but that's a, what do you call it? That's a Locrian mode of the A flat melodic minor scale. Lots of math, sorry. But it is so close to what we were playing before. If we're playing it here, we're playing a C minor. Here we go. So here's a C minor again. I can't play C in it because C gives away where it's going, right? It can't. The C, it's a 5 to 1, 5 to 1. You all know in voice leading. The 7 leads to like 3 or something, or on the 7 leads to 1, or the 2 leads to 3, whatever it happens to be. Your voice, Roman numeral voice leading stuff. Same thing here. Obviously, you show a real pull. You're not going to give away a C before you get to C, right? You're not going to get that, which you can't play a C there. These are little things you would have to know, but otherwise you're in this whole thing. You just kind of celebrate that harmony there. And so that's the first way to get started. If you want to get into the chords, that's, jazz theory, learning what you play, the curiosity you have to play it. What do I play there? There's all kinds of different things. But the first to start with is just putting yourself in the position to realize, okay, I can play a C minor through everything here except on that chord there in bar 6. Okay. So we just do that. So you organize it any way you want. That's a motific kind of thing. That's a logic way of creating, I'm going to answer down here. That's a nice way to be musical. These are motifical kind of things that if you're a singer who doesn't have a lot of, you don't think of playing a billion notes with your voice, you can be a singer. As a bassoon player, you're already a great vocalist. So you sing, it all fits, right? It's a natural inclination. It kind of just gave a little rise there on, we're talking about this 7th chord, but you have to know, when you go on to here, whoa, everything changes. Now, up here, what I'm talking about right here, and this is about as technical as I really want to get right now because I don't want people's brains bursting or something like that. Maybe you got it. Maybe I'm under telling you guys. I just want to make sure I don't go too deep because there's some other things I got to talk about. So this right here, D, that's a half diminished chord. So we're talking this. Usually this is the Locrian mode of the E flat major scale, which is really, it's the same thing we've been playing, C minor scale, right? But starting on the D. There's another mode you can also play in there. You can play the F melodic minor. It's really cool kind of sound of there, so that would be the Aeolian mode of the F melodic minor scale. I know it sounds freaky, but that's the truth. So anyway, That's called a minor 2-5-1 because it's resolving in a minor chord and it's much more tense. There's 3 separate scales. When you go to this section right here, that's actually easier. All you have to think about, because the 2-5-1 in the major key, it doesn't change the scale. So here, I'm going to play this for a second. D flat, man, I'm going to play D flat major scale right here. So we just D flat major. Now again, everything being in a major scale, I know there's minor pentatonics there. I don't think of it as minor pentatonics. I just think of it, oh, it's possible. I can go right there. I know that that works, right? Because I practiced it. So there you go. You have one, it's a nice song in C minor, except for this chord. But here, I go over here. Oh, look, I have to go to D flat. Okay. And then you go back here. Look, that looks just like this, right? So you have a complex tune, but you only have, one chord you got to get out of C for, and then you go to D flat for 4 bars, then you're back in C basically, except for that chord. So the whole thing together is a challenge if you don't break it down. If you had to play every single chord all the time, no, you get drive you nuts. What is this? I'm a typewriter or something? No. But you have to, you think it's really nice, especially for beginning improvisers. You don't have to be acrobatic like Notes Are Us kind of stuff. I always get into the problem playing too much. So this is it. So, 2 more points before I break into more questioning. So far we've dealt with iReal Pro. There are also backing tracks. For example, let me go to the if I can find it really fast, I'll put this in the chat here. So there's the iReal Pro, but there's also backing tracks like this. I can copy this. And sometimes it's really nice to play with actual other human beings, even with COVID and stuff like that. We really miss that. So I'm going to put this in here. Let me post, paste. And we're going to go there. And no, it can't be. Why can't be reached? Oh, because I probably wasn't in YouTube at the right way. Okay. Let's go paste it. Did I not get the whole thing correctly? Yeah, I did. Okay, so here we go. Blue Bossa. This is now, I'm going to share this in a second. Let me just figure out how to do this. Same tune. Now I just got to share screen. So what I now did, I went to a YouTube video. Let's play along with this. So it's actually human beings. So it doesn't sound like a machine. I'll tell you why that helps in a second. So it's a lot more fun in a way because it's more like real life. Okay, stop. So there's that. Now, little thing that we talked a little bit about groove. This is a really great to start with. Now, some of the hardest things I've noticed for double reed players, this is kind of idiomatic when we're playing even eighth notes, as something that's easier for us to do. When I played a little earlier, I played the Louis Jordan stuff, is get that swing going of other styles of grooves. And I have a couple, like 2 or 3 more points that I'm done here for now. We'll have some more stuff. I'm sure I can talk more about it. But so if I want to do something that's actually swung, if I go back to my book, which is somewhere on my desktop right here, and I'm going to share a little bit of that for now. And if I got to go back into sharing on the screen, and I share, jazz training for bassoonists. Okay, so here we go. So now we're talking about the book and different things in this book. And some of you already have it. Some of you want to get it or can't send it. So we're talking about Little Sunflower and Boss Blue. So I'm going to go a little further into a blues. And, this is the hardest thing for me in iReal Pro is that it doesn't really swing too well. And I'm going to go to the single player version right here. And so I could read the melody, whatever, but it's really not about that. It's about how do you swing on a bassoon in terms of this kind of stuff. It's not triple, it's not da 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 da. It's not that necessarily. It's not straight, but it's kind of a, if one beat was broken up into a triple. See, you see the music here, it's not. It sounds like this. If you just played it straight, not knowing it was supposed to be swung, you could play it if you played a straight eighth note grooves. But if you're playing it swung, though, I go over to iReal Pro here, and I play Milan. There we go. So if I play this, it's more like this. So there's kind of like a way you do this thing, and so it's not exactly always da 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 da. It's not. It's not that rigid either. It's kind of in between. So it's a give and take. Often what you're trying to do is you're pulling back. Here, let me stop share for a second. You're pulling back on the groove a little bit to really get the fattest kind of phrasing out of it. And it's really tough with the iReal Pro because it just doesn't sound like a bunch of guys or people playing together. It sounds like a machine, you know. So, you know, you just have to take your time being very weighted to this. So I'm running away with my fingers, but it's and this is an interesting one because we have a section of this particular blues from Milan where I'll share it again here. I'm going to share a different feature to this, is where I'm going to do something called the New York Changes, which is a bunch of turnarounds. Here is a section where you're playing still a blues, but instead of your normal 1-4-1 kind of situation, you go 7-3-6-2-1-4-5-1-4 like this. Like this is something called New York Changes. So that's a different way of playing the changes. That's a traditional thing you would do. So we're talking about often kind of sequencing. So for example, maybe some sequence ideas that's like this. So you see the way I'm articulating is really all that kind of fun you can have. So this is the hardest thing. So there are backing tracks on YouTube. I'm finding more of them all the time. I'm not sure there would be one for this, for blues. I bet you there would be. So this rhythmical thing is the hardest thing to do. And so, for example, I have one that I'm going to share on a different tune completely, and then we got off this subject and on something else. So there's a tune called Nardis, which is a great Miles Davis tune. And there is a wonderful backing track, and I'll get there right now. And let me get over here. Nardis, there we go. So I'm just going to play this tune really quickly because it's one of the few that I found had a great backing track. So I'm not going to, it's a song kind of thing. So I can go on for all day. I should stop. But that's an example of a not bad, actually, a really not too bad backing track for something that swings. Could you see the band kind of kicking in a little bit after the first couple choruses? I'm playing way more notes than maybe you need to. You know, it's not necessarily you have to, but I'm just kind of showing you a couple different examples. And that's kind of something that you work on. If you don't really hear it, don't play it, kind of thing. You know, I hear all kinds of stuff so I play them, but often it's better just you don't have to play everything all at once. And I know I'm doing a lot right now, just trying to explain a lot of things. But you know, you hear, say, maybe I'm playing this track again, and I get more under myself with how to play. It would be more. But the sound of the instrument that we play is really wonderful. You have to hear that. So already you can see how you hear the track loud enough that the bass player in this backing track starts playing a little more on the beat a little bit. And that means he's getting a little more, ramping up the groove a little bit, not the speed of it, but just intensity. So those are the kind of things that's really tough when you get more into improvising to do with a machine. It's great to do with actual people. So there's a couple of things here. Now, a lot of you guys, we'll talk about electronics next week and all that stuff, and a whole deal with how do you play like a classical bassoon or acoustic bassoon in an ensemble and make it work for you. So you might have noticed when I played the Icarus on video of I'll go back to it here. My history should show Icarus. Where's Icarus here? Here we go. So if I'm over here, I'm going to share this for a second here. If we're back in here. Now, this guy playing percussion, right? It's Trilok Virtu. Perfect sonic it's not going to kill you. He's not a drum. I'm not saying all drummers are, responsible for this, but set drummers, they can't help it. They hit one note, it's like almost obliterates the sound of a bassoon. So you have to either play with real sensitive musicians, which is not out of the realm at all, or you play in an ensemble that's more like a chamber music ensemble, like the ones we're used to playing with, so you can play relatively acoustically. So there's something like this. There's also something like this. I'll go to Davka. This is a group I used to play with called Davka. And this is a guy playing a cajon, which is a basically. So this is. This is a good example of chamber musicians, orchestration-wise, they're not super loud. No, good microphones. You hear the rhythm, you feel the rhythm. Chords are all there. So it's a little solid for them. So this is a very nice little ensemble to play with in terms of acoustically. You don't need to amp up. It's great when you do. It's a fantastic situation. Let me get out of this chair here. So that's ways to start. In terms of the orchestration or a pianist or a guitarist, a small group that you can play with where you can hear yourself think. When you want to get into the louder stuff, it helps to have a setup that works for you. So. First, I would say, getting back to the very beginning, you go to the modal stuff, you work on that, and these are some of the tips you can have. I think I'm ready for some questions now. If everybody's still here, anybody's here still. So
yeah, we're just pushing up. Hi guys, we're just pushing up on about an hour and 10, having done here. Did you cover all the points that you wanted to, Paul, or did you have some other stuff?
Basically, guys. This is the introduction to improvisation and how to starting with a major scale, divide it up and see that, you get the chords. After that, you get the tonalities. We can get a lot more into it, but just introduction into how, you can start with the apps and how you can start with the musicians and certain things like that. It's just to get an introduction to what's involved. And some of my students were highlighting some of the things I talked about, which I'm really proud of them for that. So that's pretty much it.
Did you guys have any specific questions for Paul? Anything follow up? Paul, do you want me to drop I know you're offering Zoom lessons still, specifically in the area of jazz. I can drop his contact info in the chat here. And then for anyone else who wants it, I will, you can always either email me. My name is Allie. I'm the media manager here at Forrests Music. So that's allie@forrestsmusic.com. Or if you're local, you're welcome to come in. Of course, the owner is Paul's wife, Cynthia, who's over here in one of the other boxes. Over here. So if you had any interest in getting in touch with Paul or any of his recordings or his books or anything, we have them all here and are happy to get you in touch with him. Do you guys have any questions for him?
It's all good.
All right.
Go ahead.
So I'm in a jazz combo here at the University of Eau Claire, and I don't have yet a way of getting kind of an amplification other than what I have. I usually play guitar. What would be some things that I could suggest to the other members? I think it's a trumpet, alto sax, bass, and drummer to try to get them to quiet down a bit if I were to bring in a bassoon one day.
Yeah, well, bring a bassoon, I would say get myself with a decent condenser microphone where I have, a decent microphone right here. So basically, you don't want to be too far from the sweet spot of the instrument, which is kind of off the wing a little bit. So about right here from the bassoon, I could say a little bit off to the side of it. There's ways to microphone so you kind of find the sweet spot. I mean, if you're playing super low on the instrument, you won't be kind of cutting through. Ask them to play percussively for a second or with brushes or something like this. Now, the benefit, we'll talk a lot about this next week, but amplification changes the game completely. I mean, you become almost a separate instrument. Like, think about Andres Segovia and Jimi Hendrix. They're very different, right? So that's a complete, different possibilities. So, but there's nothing I think of electronically yet that I know of, although Trent Jacobs, who invented Little Jake, which is a pickup system I used. I'll go over all this stuff next week. He can sound pretty great with it, but it doesn't sound exactly like acoustic on a microphone. It just won't, because of the thing I told you about phasing and notes coming out at different times, right? But I would say that find a good sweet spot in your microphone, have them just to play down your volume level. Acoustic guitars I think works well. Soft patches on keyboard players often play chord right where bassoons can be heard. So either play them like kind of get out of the way, or play really high and some high atmospheric chords, because for some reason keyboards cover up a lot of what bassoon does because they're kind of low middle range kind of, where guitars are more jangly and I think work better. I don't know if this is somewhere along the lines of what you were saying. Are you talking equipment wise or orchestration wise for your what you'd like them to do?
I think a little mix of both.
Yeah. So I would say, orchestration wise, go to your strengths when you're acoustic, and it always works. Think about it. Just if you have something on top or like something way up there, and you can be heard in the middle a little bit. And guitar really works well. I think all guitars I've noticed really work well with bassoon. I would suggest a big open tune over a really nice sound where you can get in the tenor range a little bit. You definitely want to get up to higher range. It's not all about that, because sometimes I've been confused with being on gigs with people and playing solos. Like, yeah, that was a great sax solo. They know it's not a sax, but they just can't help it because I'm playing the same range. So sometimes if you play lower, you can start low and give yourself headroom, because you don't have to you can end up higher by starting low, I think, is something, so you're talking about, say, if you're playing over like some kind of open D guitar kind of tuning, oh, that's very nice sing-songy vocal kind of stuff. And in that range if you're playing, you can play up to high B, maybe even high C. But I think those are ways to do it. And then, I wish I'll go over this a little bit more next time with electronics, but my mic isn't really set up for showing you. But for what's worked for me in here is if I take this and take this. I don't know if you can see that. Here. Microphone. And so this is like, I'm not exactly the right height here, but be something like this distance, like kind of like a little off the wing, so it gets some of the sound. Because a lot of sound that you really want to hear is coming from the wing joint. Everything, and some things from the bottom will come up. Play low B5 is going to be missed probably a little bit. You also get a little bit of the back of the sound, something like this, or even like this a little bit. Somewhere in that range of being that far from the mic will help you, And something like a good condenser microphone. 57s don't really do it. I'm trying to think of RE20 is not too bad, I guess. Neumann stuff, all good. I guess AKG small capsule microphones would be good. Or large capsules are better. We're talking studio mics, but I try to remember, like, if you look at the video, you might see the microphones they used on Dovka stuff. I knew it was just condenser microphones work better, because the pickup range is perfect for the bassoon. So that's equipment wise. And melodically, to give you like the guy's playing something open strumming kind of thing where he's got a low D, or and he's giving you like some open chords to play over. Think of the groups like Oregon, like Ralph Towner or something like that. I don't have I get a guitar right here, but it's like something like it's like take too long. That kind of stuff where it's jangly, you get a little harmonic stuff, or you get plenty of room in the road. He's not getting in your way. Where keyboards, for some reason, the tonality is often on keyboard players, if they're not sensitive, it'll be perfect, but they're often just kind of gets in the way. So I think that's enough if I can say for now. on that subject. Sorry. Any other questions? I had someone else raising their hand. Yes, Matt. Is he unmuted?
So, oh yeah. So you were touching on just a touch with the instruments and orchestration and kind of how that it would make an effect over your timbre when you're playing the melody.
Right.
But kind of going off of that a little bit, I would say when you are experimenting with your melodies and a melodic line, do you find yourself incorporating dynamics and
Oh yeah, now we
range?
talk about that. Sure. Yeah, it's a good point because often things are kind of what builds something, right? And it's not necessarily just note choices. And often I've done more like contemporary classical style, which I don't have much on YouTube in terms of like almost freestyle playing, where it's you're making it all up at your time and you can utilize that stuff. And there's certain things. For example, if I went back to Nardis, so if you're starting something like this, so obviously building, you want to go two different things. So let me go to the solo here. So say if I start dynamic down, other musicians will follow me there, which is really important. Because what happens is I've always been talking in this particular thing. Let me unshare this. I don't know if I'm going to share it or not because I didn't share it. But I was playing over Nardis. So yeah, obviously those things musically are fantastic. All the stuff we're talking about, dynamics, all the tune, dynamics, and time, all that stuff is really important. Just the meat and matter of different scale notes in just terms of the raw material for a solo. There's often the stuff we talked about today is like, what would you use for the basis of a big, solo? What can you use? All these different things. Of course, you can use dynamics, and it's really good, especially if you play dynamics with listening musicians and you don't go right to the jam session, I'm showing off kind of stuff. You play actual music, which means people are listening to you, and good players will let you go. That's what you often do, and that's the hardest thing to do with iReal Pro is act as if you're playing with real people. Some of these things are nice to find, these little online YouTube videos of actually human beings, but yeah, you just can pace yourself. You don't have to go all at once. And then conversely, when you get loud, often you try not to get the thing. I know some people try to get extreme dynamics. You got to get the sound of air coming out of your mouth. You try not to go for that, I think. But it's more starting quiet and, maybe one forte in a solo as opposed to, all wall to wall, totally. Yeah, so see what I'm saying? It is an element, obviously. And, there's also, it's like all these kind of cool effects that are certain companies will come at other times that I didn't even go into, which are more for next thing, because that with the electronics is really great. And so, you got yeah, you little things like overtones, like dropped A flat. Yeah, another vocals, it sounds like an E. This sounds like a flat major, but all those different funny, new music kind of technical stuff, they're great if you use them in a certain way that supplement the other stuff, and it makes cool stuff to listen to for sure. Does that someone answer your question? I'm sorry, I'm getting more long-winded the older I get.
Oh, totally. Yeah. No, that's great.
I'm sorry I didn't go there. I'm just blastathon here. Okay. Any more questions at all? Anything? There's one thing I wanted to show you guys before. It's not out yet. It's a new product. This is gonna be fun. Let me do this here. This is called what is it called? Big Easy. So this is something called Big Easy Groove Training. And when I went back to talking about groove playing and how to really enjoy yourself over one tonality, right? Now we're getting into more modern funk. There's a group I play with called Zenith Patrol. And I play electric bassoon in that, and it's kind of a funky, hip-hop funky kind of thing. So I have this chart here. Let me see if I can find it. Big Easy Groove Training. Where is my actual chart? There it is. So this is the chart. It is available, I think, on my gumroad.com and maybe also at Forrests Music pretty soon.
Go ahead and share your screen because we can't see it.
I'm trying to. I've got so many things going on here. Okay, where's my iReal Pro? There it is. There's this. Okay, sorry guys. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. That. So this, listen along for a second here. This is a tune that is what's great. Like I said, bassoon and funk really go together. And ironically, all those crazy sounds I just made, because it's very much like the Hendrix stuff that got me into bassoon. It's like, whoa, Hendrix does this cool, wow, you know, the whammy bar. I can do the same thing, you know. All that kind of crazy stuff. All that kind of sliding stuff that I do, especially with the effects. It sounds fantastic. So let me get to this here. Let me go to my here and play this thing. So this is not only is the bass line really cool, it's like a new Orange funky hybrid. So it's kind of a swung 16th kind of thing. So it sounds like this. So. Here comes the melody string. I gotta get another page because it's coming up pretty soon, so I gotta go get it. Bridge. So I can go on and on, but which important notes about this thing? It's got a solo section coming up. I'll play it, I guess. There's a little break. So when you have this one chord, right, to go over, actually it's the whole scale of the whole entire tune, even though the chords change and the roots change. So when some of the things we'll talk about next week a little bit are possible because I'm taking the E right here, E, and so that's we're going to run up and down the scale. That feels good to us. Just one mode, we're having fun with it, you know. So this entire scale is a D major scale. We'll start at C sharp. F natural in there. Remember C natural too? I can barely hear the backing track, sorry. Anyway, so that's like a fun thing to do, right? So let me stop some sharing stuff and stop the music. This is kind of where I started with this kind of stuff. So I can't really hear the track, but you get the idea. So it's really celebrating, as opposed to kind of a chamber jazz way, maybe of organ, or like what we did in Little Sunflower. This is definitely meatier, right? Bassoon is a great funk instrument, and because it's just, it's got the low range, and that kind of stuff. We're always used to displacing octaves all the time. Other instruments don't displace as well as we are able to do because of the nature of our board. It's not that big around, and it's just more even all the way through. So anyway, so that is something that I just wanted to share, that all this stuff, once you know all these different chords and all these different scales and stuff, and you go make simplifications to, hey, I'm just playing one mode for now. If I want to stretch out a little bit and go like displace a little harmonics thing this way or that, it's kind of fun. I'm like kind of skiing down a hill, like, oh, I don't have to play C major or C minor. I can go to D for a second or whatever. Then that's where the fun really starts. So at least in my head. So I don't know if there's any other questions, but I'm yapping on. Where are you going? Okay. So
Did anyone else have any questions for Paul?
Well, if there's not questions, this is real fun. I'm going to save this chat here. Some people have got to run. Cool.
So I think that's the end of our event here today, at least for today. Next week, same time, 2:00 Pacific time, we'll be covering with Paul electronics for jazz bassoon and the way that he uses his particular gear. You can, if you're interested in some of the songs that you saw today in this class, you're welcome to go ahead and pick up his new book, Jazz Training for Bassoonists. I'll pop this link down here again in the chat for you. And it's also available on our website.
Yeah.
It does come with the iRoll Pro stuff. All of it doesn't come with the application itself, but it does come with the files that load into the program, and those are also available on our website.
Cool, guys. It's just real fun having you guys here. I hope I didn't make more confusing stuff. I hope you mystified some. But basically, get out there and try it. It will not ruin your classical stuff at all. It's just, you think your music is, this is different music for this situation, and this is different music for that situation. It's all music. And same things that make great music in any one style make it in other styles, dynamics, time, energy, colorfulness, how do you make that color? So it's real fun for me. I made a career out of it, and I feel great about it, and lucky, and extremely, lucky to be able to do it. And because I had a lot of support along the way with people willing to put up to coming to a jam session and failing or whatever like that. I think there's so many more tools now that people are getting really good because there's so much great tools, and definitely take advantage of that situation and get out there and make music. I hear more and more people improvising on this instrument, more and more, electronic bassoonist stuff, whether it be pieces in the classical realm or people improvising, whatever. It's just go out there and have some great times with it. I think that's the main thing to do.
All right. Thank you guys so much. If you guys have any questions for me or the company, feel free to stick around. And have a great rest of your day, guys.
Okay, now, bye-bye.